nice assortment of people today. So I don't have to bring my prepared poem, which is not my own. It was from a young poet, because I don't want to take away from your time today.
Well, why don't you read it now?
Would you like to hear it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Actually, this is, she is quite gifted. And
You're not on here.
her pen name is Luna M. Ziba. And she wrote on the witness thing. She heard them crying. She witnessed their deaths. She lay at night thinking they deserved to rest. She didn't know where the bodies went, but she knew that their spirits no longer had to be bent. To fit in their bodies crippled with despair, broken by the people running the devil's bear.
Wow.
So, anyway, and that is from a local young poet who is also a very gifted writer. So we'll probably hear more from her. And she also has a PoemTown poem in a window downtown. So that's much longer. Okay, now I didn't keep a list today because I had a few just to start. So do we just want to go around, or would someone like to go first?
I'd love to go first just because of my chemical sensitivities. I can't stay very long.
Okay. Louise, what we're doing since he's filming, we're just introducing ourselves and then we read our poetry.
You want to be filmed?
Do I want to be? Not really, but whatever.
Well, you have the option.
Oh,
Yes.
I just record the audio of your voice.
that would be great.
Oh, okay, okay, awesome. Thank you.
I'm Louise Rader, and I'm retired up here and spend a lot of time writing poetry and working at the Athenaeum as a volunteer. I just grabbed these last minute, so I am totally unprepared, which is not usual for me. I'm usually prepared, but so I'm just going to read. And the first poem I'd like to read, and that may be enough for you, it's 4.5 pages, and I've been writing all my life, and but this is new for me to write such a long poem. So it's in sections, 14 lines in 11 different sections, but they all come together. And it's called Timbre, Timbre. Silence has its own sound, a conch over my ear, hidden waves of ringing, a charged atmosphere, swish of last year's leaves, dried to near transparency, pale pink in light shaft, bones washing ashore, rattle of Penelope's loom, phrases, poetic lines, still casting their rods, scores, a splay of notes, song, sonata, an aria, fragments, nothing whole. Without distraction, silence allows the ache of empty pregnancies, allows wombic grief, unboundaried shrivel, species disappearing, a spinal shiver, a collapse, an implosion, as tears drop off the roof from late winter snow that doesn't cease or muffle engine spew, sand and salt. This silence I live with, textured as Bargello nubby wool, wire tangle behind walls, weaves thoughts, interior conversations. Balloons, people deflated under musty piles, early moments needled alive, a litany of slights and betrayals, my father mute, a deaf uncle's molest, impact unfathomed, time decomposed. My uncle's daughter has only known silence. Lumpectomy or mastectomy foisted on her middle years, determined to age beyond chemicals her mother swallowed to finally birth a mass of wondrous cells that could expand into a tapestry mysteried with future, or a daffodil bulb fragrancing spring. In silence, I read words spilling pools of tenderness, almost unbearable, a suffering fragile as moth wings, easily turned to dust. I imagine being broken, someone else's need for a torn thread, frayed cloth soaked in blood, scraps collaged, loneliness dripped across an installation. Silence surrounds me, a mosaic of shards, edges smooth and rough, thin glass, thick clay, a washer's tumble, last cycle, buzz of copulating flies, crow's finger wings curling my earlobes, the clatter of porcelain, hand-painted cup to chipped saucer, a friend's voice stitching ventricles. Silence swells men who framed my childhood, cardboard pop-ups, fairy tales churning a page, a few twinkles of laughter, moonlight breaking rippled water, queries meaning, motive, a restless foot, millennia before words, gesture shaping breath, upper branches for swing and repose, desert winds solitude to tickle rhinoceros skin. Silence craves its misplaced love, whispering reeds, wheatgrass, a hummingbird's gulp of nectar, crackle inside a snowflake, worries a memory off loose hinges that distance transforms, hungers for a mountain of knit moments, each one embraced, a baby scallop on ocean floor, molecules of coral reef, Odysseus nearly home. Despite or because of itself, silence is playful, skates over slippery brocade, toys with satin ideas, languishing beneath boulders, manages patience to exponential, encourages tumescence, sees a gnat's first flight, worships clouds, collecting a brushstroke spectrum or shades of dazzled white, traces shadows that dance a jazz on my naked ear. Bright red on the hour, church bell clamor shreds silence, loose fibers floating unmoored. A freezer flat fan clumps minutes into on and off chunks. An artist's neighbor, door slam, boot bang, when cigarette sirens beckon to fire truck cacophony, police cars slashing air, unheard war screams, a collective planetary howl. Silence, silent as stone, pairings, mineral geology orbits my room, settles in a chair, contemplating spirit, stretches on the sleep mat, cooks tiny bowl meals, layers questions, see answers, quiets nerve endings, language translated from lathered ruins, for key press against ribbon, immortality of fossil.
Is that it? Yes. Oh, gosh. Did you write it all at once?
No, I didn't write it all at once. It probably took a good 3 weeks. And just every time I thought it was finished, it wasn't. Until it finally was.
Yeah. Wonderful. Oh, it's
Thank
really
you.
nice.
Thank you.
Do you have another one you'd like to read?
Yeah, I just want to, yes. Okay, this one I'll read just in keeping with what Adele shared from the young woman whose poem is in PoemTown. This one is under one of mine, and it's under a nom de plume that I've taken on. So it's at the Kingdom Tap Room, and my nom de plume is Freddie Sayer. Just because being an old woman now, in the morning I'll just say, "Are you ready, Freddie?" So that's how it emerged. So gotta play, So this one's called Pigeon Poetics. Given the number of poems I've written about pigeons, you'd swear I worked a dovecote to send out messengers carrying ankleted peace songs, not life la-di-das of new age ilk, but hardcore Phil Oakes and Woody Guthrie, tunes to shake us up, those birds of iridescent neck, sometimes painted white, often flocked, often prey, survivors of frigid winters. I started to record their tactics as a city park man tossed crumbs until bullied, I sprouted wings to a darkened bar to ward off other lurking hawks, miraculously finding Pete Seeger on the jukebox, wrote a rhythm about pigeon back and forth, some woman later read on the radio. Yet what of that first Joan Baez, Bob Dylan outdoor concert when onto my auburn waves, pale blue girly dress, a dollop of pigeon poop, a witness or joker said was a blessing.
Okay, thank you. I think about
welcome.
10
Thank you.
minutes each is going to probably work out just right. So, who would like to go next?
Oh, I don't know if I want to go after that.
We could do boy, girl, till we run out of
Okay,
boys.
yeah.
That's true.
Very quickly. Thank you. I have to look up the word dovecote now. I'm Mike Farrand. I think I'm going to do some newer stuff. Or things I just submitted and got a response on. I'm trying to stay more out on the edge on that. We just did the poetry slam, and I did new stuff rather than dust off polished, refined material from years ago, which would have certainly won the competition. I took the risk of bringing some raw stuff, and I think that's more in the spirit of things, and keeps me creating and all of that. So. I also recently did a translation, which I'd never done. Some of you are members of the Poetry Society of Vermont, and they put out a call for their Mountain Troubadour, which comes out every year, and this year they added translations. And one of my favorite poems is by Alexander Pushkin. And so I did a translation of it. But first, I'll try to do the Russian. How about that, huh?
Oh, yeah.
It was written in 1829, so apologize if it's a little rusty. Я вас любил, любовь еще будет сможет. Ведущие мои ugasla ne sovsiem. No pust ona vas bolše ne trevojit. Ja ne hoću pečalic vas ničem. Ja vas ljubim bezmolno, beznadježno, to robosťo, to revnosťo tomím. Ja vás ljubim tak iskrenjo, tak nježno, kak daj vám Bog. Ljubi moj, buď drugim. So I translated that as, usually it's called I Loved You Once, but Pushkin doesn't really put a title on it. His first few words mean I loved you, but I called it Love from God. I have loved you hopelessly, without words. I loved you so tenderly, so sincerely. This love has yet to die down in my soul. I was timid, I grew jealous, love thus languished, but I do not wish to trouble you anymore with this. Rather, I wish you only such love from God. So, I've since looked it up, and people regard that as one of the great Russian love poems. This one I submitted to PoemTown St. Johnsbury last year when it was about place, I think was the theme. Mm-hmm. And they brutally dismissed it. Going with one of my lesser pieces. Yeah. So out of rebellious nature, I read the one that didn't get posted. It's called All Along on Pompanusik. The other reason I'm reading is I get to pronounce that name every once in a while. All along on Pompanusik, where gushing waters prance, Abenaki tribes did trump there through mushy, quaky land. Their own. On banks they hunted, fished, and hunkered. We took the name for banks and stores. She rises up from Berkshire west, flowing through the Fairleys east, slacking once for Union Village Dam. Joining Connecticut in town of Norwich, together flowing to Long Island. Little of this I know as I hurtle by, just a name on highway signs so odd to my ear. Perhaps down there I'll find the answers, the how, the why, the when of life. And I spell Connecticut the way the Abenaki used to. So it's barely pronounceable.
How do they spell it?
Quinne. Of course, they didn't spell it this way. This is the phonetic of how they did it. Quine. So it starts with an Irish last name. Etukut. Ehtukqut. That was Connecticut. Anyway, probably some of you have driven by that same sign. I'm Pompanusik. I think that SUC or SIC, you'll see it all over New Hampshire too when you're driving. That must mean lake or body of water or whatever, because you'll see it.
Besumsik means clear running water.
So the sick, I assume, maybe it's water, but you'll see it on a lot of bodies of water, the names of a lot of bodies of water. All right, this one, I'm trying to remember where, oh right, I sent this in, I shouldn't tell any other member of PSOV, that would be unfair. Are there members of PSOV here? No?
No.
Okay, well, Poetry Society of Vermont does a spring and fall luncheon workshop, and they do a first call where you send your poem in. Second call, as I understand it, they send that batch back around to us. We read everybody's poems without a name, and then we decide who the people's choice is, and then top 3, I think, get printed in that Mount Troubadour. And then we have a critic who flies in from somewhere and savages our work, leaves us hopeless, helpless, just hoping for some sign that maybe we should continue our poetic careers. So I call this one Real. I wrote it on April Fool's Day, if that matters to anybody.
It matters.
I did not miss the light you threw me, for I lived without light. The path before me had been dark. You cleared brambles, you pointed way, then you took your own path forth. Where I had been, you were going. Where I went, you had been. You left me changed, new hopes, new dreams, a life transformed. Years passed, I forgot. Not how love had found me, nor chance you brought, nor even you. I forgot how much you rearranged me. Wrong to seek again that wandering soul twined with mine. Is my world so different now that time might make it real? Mm-hmm. Now, the difference, again, is I find that the problem with that workshop approach is that being competitive, I try to go for that prize. I want to win the people's choice rather than bringing them raw stuff that I probably need help on from the critic. Mm-hmm. So this was my effort to be a better man, be the better man, write something fresh, take the arrows. These are two things which they decided not to put in the Mount Troubadour. So I've decided these must be pieces of genius that they couldn't understand. This one is from '06. I did pull some stuff from a long time ago to try to get into this damn Mount Troubadour. This one's called If a Boy Would Listen. If a boy would listen, if a man could tell all the things that glisten that point the way to hell, the troubles would be halved, the wars be cut in two, deep wounds would be salved, disgrace would come to few. But that's not how it works. The older man must gray. Each kid rides his berserks until he finds his way. Can you believe they turned that down? Quality must have been amazing, When Love Comes Calling. This is '07, next year. When Love Comes Calling. When Love Comes Calling. When Love Came Calling, I'm sorry. The title is When Love Comes Calling. The first line is, when love came calling, were you ready? Were your heart and your knees steady? You failed the quiz. Nobody is. When love comes calling, it's a surprise. Even the wise don't see love coming. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is a girl next?
Well, do you want to? Are you going to read today? Maybe. I'm not sure. Okay. Well, I'm going to read something from years ago, and I love it. Maybe you've heard it before. Well, here it is again. It's called a Chinese ballet, or ballad, I like to say. Hollow moon skimming my life, can you voice these sentences, these parallels? Come forth with the graph you believe in. The idea you sketched over my mirror has erased itself, even as my fingers traced it. I trace only my vision. This mask I hold is tiresome, false, and fleeting. With this clock's minute hand, I print an unidentified history. The mask and the minute hand printing through an analogous history are my own cast. Hollow moon skimming my life, are yours so perishable? Can you assure me that my fleeing avenue is your palace? How many of my empty paragraphs have you devoured? Has your darkened womb hidden from my horizon my missing hours? I move through your shattered realm, holding your thin light, finding myself here, rested, full. The missing hours, a fleeing paragraph, this empty avenue.
Whoa.
I love that. It's wonderful. Oh, thank you.
Would you, I'm sorry, this is not totally related to your poem, but is ballot one of those words like fillet and valet?
Julia Child would say fillet and ballot.
Well, because fillet and valet, which we pronounce the French way, are actually a Germanic root and British, and they actually should be fillet and valet. But ballet is French. She just got it wrong. It was all those years operating as an undercover CIA agent.
I wonder. Do you believe that?
It was in the movie, so it must be true.
Well, actually, in England,
You can't
it's
believe
ballet.
Meryl Streep, right?
It's
Ballet. They
Ballet.
spill it, that's true, but it's a ballet. With the accent is on the first
What
syllable.
about valet? Like we say valet, and it's really
Most
valet.
people say valets, yes.
In Britain, in England,
Yeah.
it should be valid. It's an English word, but anyway, we Frenchify it.
Well, how about herb? I mean, why does the Americans say herb? I will never understand.
And Julia Child and I always say herb. I get corrected every single time.
And you have known some of the herbs I've known. Herb sounds so much
Let's
nicer.
see, herb. I know one herb. Here's something I wrote kind of recently. It's called City Not in America. Remember how our lips felt? We believed the moon too large. The bell church sang in alto. Remember how the river slivered? We might have danced, maybe. Mist moist lay against us. Remember how glass broke into our eyes? We tied the scarf around the statue so it wouldn't tumble into the sea. Call remember, whisper remember. This is about as romantic as I'll ever get. Yeah. Is this my weather ones? Yeah, and then I wrote some weather. And this one was not recent. It's called Mist. Sky tips over clouds. Dampness glides earthward, stings eyelid, lip. Tree arm holds chalice high, waits refreshment. Rooftop makes music, crescendos, whispers. Puddle reflects intensities, promises. Grass throbs, window melts. Sleep slides down, moves my hand to yours. We'll see about that. Then we have one called Rain. This is kind of recent. And while we were dancing in the rain, and while we were drowning in the rain, there came a closing of clouds. There came a chorus of closing that realm far from here, the far realm of cascading sunshine. The realm opened to dance. It rains, we dance. Oh yeah, this was the winter we had no snow. You say snow downcoming is silent, enveloping, courteous even. Say again what chill invades this curious body, how you hide in a closet, waiting. Say warmth again. Snow speaks, shouts for your memory when a closet opens. Say remember again, snow's song. Here's an oldie. Oh, maybe I'm at the end. Yeah, that's all I brought. So,
Thank you.
this is one of the first ones I ever wrote. It doesn't have a title, but we can say poetry. Poetry slips from beneath a pencil without one's knowing. Maybe lead is really words, tightly bound inside wooden cells, waiting for release. Maybe it depends upon the holder of pencils.
Oh, that's wonderful. What is your name?
I'm Jeannie Morris. I'm from West Charleston, not to be confused with East Charleston. I've been here a number of years. I'm up from Cambridge, Mass. So,
Oh, thank
there
you.
you have it.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Okay.
Who else is going to read? Sorry.
Why don't
don't you go first? You were here before me, so why don't you read first?
That's logic of sorts. Well, thank you. I must say your first poem, Moon Poem, did make me think maybe I will read my Moon Poem. Good. So let me find it. Here it is. Moon. Oh, I didn't say. Sorry. My name is Vera Frost. I live in Passumpsic, just south of St. Johnsbury. Moon. The biography of stones is possible now, said the scientist of moons. She is leaving our sky on centimeter shoes. There is night and there are moon nights. I put a hand up, cupped, to catch reflections. To the lost bare branch, memory is not the promised guide. Too late, we evolve, rise. There are sleeves, and there is a moon in glory. Come back is the essence of prayer. In economies of the lost but living well, there is living well, and there is the well. Don't come back, I pray, beneath the marks of certain tides. Even the trees groan to rise tonight. Let us ride the unavoidable light. There is snow disturbed, and there is a pendant moon. That's my moon. I think that's all I'll probably read. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll read next week.
Oh, okay, awesome. How about you, sir? You brought some things, right?
Did.
Awesome, okay.
I haven't read for many, many years, so I retired to Vermont a few years ago, and regaining my voice or trying to. Let's see. Since there are a large majority of women here, I will read this one, which was written shortly after when the Women's March sort of somehow influenced this poem. It's called Black Virgin, and it is written for Gertrude Stein, who is on her way from Paris to March on January 21, 2017. There, in a green and rocky valley garden, at the bottom of the city of Luxembourg, carved into a tumble of rock, a welcome door reveals a chapel, a grotto. The word grates in the throat, gritty and smooth, primitive and sacred. As my eyes adjust, awakening like bats at sunset upon a hallowed shelf, a statue gazes into the universe, mother and child, black with age or birth, damp and dark, saturated by years, by tears, lit by an arrow of light, a hole, a halo of natural gold bathes her. Here, automatically kneeling, or was I standing? I felt a quiet seismic adumbration, knowledge from the ancestral depths of my body, a deep fold in my brain flowing into the blood of my heart. Woman, this woman, the acknowledged mother of the Son of God, the child on her lap who proclaimed her to claim to be God himself, who prophets, popes, priests, peasants, poets, politicians propagated through the ages. She, like our mother, came before him, this God of peace and war, blessing and damnation, this mother, the dark mother, born of earth, sky, stars, seeping the waters of life. I knew veneration for the first time, not to the mother of my Lord and Master, no, not the mother of God, no. She is the mother of us all. You just need experience. One more personal experience, and this was written just a few days ago. I was going to come to the book here about, they're meeting with the lecture here about Frederick Douglass and Martin Luther King. Abraham Lincoln, right. Sorry. And I didn't make it, but anyway, then fell the reminder of the assassination of Dr. King. And I grew up in the South, in Jim Crow society. Matter of fact, my graduating class was the first class to have one black in it, in an area that a third of the population was black, but we didn't know any of them. So anyway, this was what happened in 1968. 1968 was an explosion. That April day, memory rides back to the north end of Kent Island, escaping with the lover who exploded my marriage. The room booked at an inn smacked me upside the head, eyes darting with suspicion at us, smirking at the two hippie city boys, not fashioned in camouflage, not carrying cases with guns, booking one bedroom at what was a hunting camp. No sweet lover's highway, looking out over the lowlands of blinds to conceal lovers of violence. Strolling from the inn around the settlement, not much higher than the marsh grasses, to photograph a chapel church, white and pale blue like the sky, and the waters feeding the Chesapeake. Dizzy slices, blue ribbons snaking the yellow-green marsh. We heard of the killing in a tiny store, the proprietor smiling as he told us. We left the bower, beds untouched, catching the first bus. We could hear Baltimore calling us. We needed to be home. But Colonel suddenly, he to his gram and grandpa, me to my wife and child. Deep inside, we could feel the city crying, mourning, needing us to hold it close. Soon anger burst into flames, rioters flaming their homes. Shorn, blinded Samson, painfully trying to tear that wickedness away. Billows of smoke rolling up from East Baltimore, troops on our roof, guarding us from the pain and compassion, tearing the fearful, curious eyes, some gloating in their corner, itching for a fight to seal the rioters in their slums, where God meant them to be, backing the messenger of death, for the death of the messenger, glad to slaughter the Pacific, lacking compassion to know. There is always anger in the pain of loss, shaking a fist heavenward at the unjust God. Have you not felt this way? The years of hope flee, the struggle annulled, the sight of liberty bowing again to the white God's segregation. At Fort McHenry, the flag no longer free, in the state and land of the free, the promise diminished by the assassination, not just of a king. His name is both royal and rebel, but killing too, the home of the brave.
Oh, very nice. Anyone else? Okay. Well, I want to thank you all again for coming to our noontime readings, and I hope you will come next week and share some more. Bring your friends, and next time, same place, same station.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
It was all wonderful, wonderful poetry. Thank you so much for sharing.
Joe.